I can still see it in my mind. The cold Kentucky winter, the bare trees shivering against a gray sky, and that narrow, dark hole in the earth. From the outside, it looked like nothing more than a small opening in a hillside. But to us, it was a mouth that had swallowed a man, and it refused to let him go. His name was Floyd Collins. Some called him the Cave Boy. I called him a dreamer. Because Floyd didn't just walk this earth, he was always looking beneath it. While others saw fields and forests, Floyd saw a map of undiscovered worlds waiting under his feet. He had spent years crawling through the guts of Kentucky's caves, pitch-black corridors of limestone, dripping with the weight of centuries. Every creak of rock, every whisper of water, it was like the caves spoke to him. And he listened. He believed that if he could find the right cave, the perfect cave, it could become a tourist attraction, and his family would never have to struggle again. That was Floyd, always thinking of his people, even when chasing his own obsessions. It was January of 1925, when Floyd found himself exploring a place locals called Sand Cave. It was tight. Dangerously tight. A place most men wouldn't dare to squeeze into. But Floyd saw possibility. On that cold day, he wriggled in, his lantern casting trembling shadows on the jagged walls. The smell of damp stone and clay filled his lungs. His breath echoed back at him like a warning. And then it happened. Somewhere deep inside, his foot kicked a pebble, the pebble shifted a rock, and the rock shifted the earth itself. In an instant, the ceiling above him cracked. A slab of stone broke free, not large enough to crush him, but heavy enough to pin his leg. He was stuck, trapped in a stone coffin barely wider than his shoulders. The lantern flickered, throwing shadows that made the walls seem closer and closer. At first, Floyd thought he could get free. He twisted, he pulled, he shouted into the darkness. But all that answered him was silence. Hours passed before anyone even knew. A local farmer heard the faintest cry while passing the entrance and ran for help. By the time rescuers arrived, the sun had already sunk behind the hills, and frost crept over the grass. They shouted down to him. He shouted back. Relief he was alive. But that relief turned to dread when they saw how deep he was, how narrow the passage became. One man at a time could go down, wriggle forward, and try to chip away the rock trapping Floyd's leg. Each attempt was like threading a needle in the dark. The stone refused to give. Word spread like wildfire. By the next morning, dozens of people had gathered. Then hundreds. Then thousands. Reporters came, photographers came. The cave became a stage, and Floyd, the unwilling star. It was a strange sight. Tents, fires, cameras, and microphones, all surrounding a hole in the ground where a man clung to life. People sold hot coffee and biscuits to the onlookers. Children played tag on the frozen grass while just feet below them. Floyd fought for every breath. Rescue teams worked day and night. They lowered food and water to him. One rescuer even sang hymns to keep his spirits up. Floyd would talk about the stars he couldn't see, and the fields he wished he could walk again. Days passed. Then the weather turned. A brutal cold front blew in, freezing the ground, making every tool bite slower into the earth. Worse, the narrow tunnel began to collapse from all the digging. They realized they couldn't reach him from the original path without risking killing him outright. So they made a desperate decision. They'd dig a completely new shaft from above, straight down to where he lay. The work was brutal. Shovels rang against frozen dirt. Men swapped shifts, their hands bleeding, breath steaming in the cold air. And always, in the back of their minds, how long could Floyd last? Reporters sent updates across the country. America listened, prayed, cried. In homes miles away, families gathered by the radio, imagining this man in the darkness, his breath misting in the cold, waiting for the sound of rescuers breaking through. But time is merciless. On the fourth day, when a rescuer managed to crawl down the original tunnel to check on him, Floyd's voice was weaker. Still hopeful but fading. By the sixth day, the tunnel was completely blocked by falling rock. The new shaft was their only hope now. And then silence. It was the 14th day, when they finally broke through into the pocket, where he had been trapped. But Floyd was gone. The cave had claimed him. They sealed the tunnel, left the body where it lay. Some said it was mercy, that the earth itself wanted to keep him. Others said it was cruelty, that no man should be buried alive without a fight to bring him home. Years later, they did retrieve him, but the legend had already grown. The cave boy became more than a man, he became a story. A warning. A reminder of how small we are when the earth decides to close her hand. Sometimes, when I walk past Sand Cave on a winter's evening, I swear I can still hear it. Not the wind, not the birds, but the faintest sound of a man calling up from the dark, still dreaming of the sky.